Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I come from the retreat of the Darjeeling Master. I come from the council chambers, where many ascended masters are gathered in contemplation of the new year, of energy allotments, of dispensations from on high and karma from below. And you would be surprised to see how elaborately El Moria has prepared charts and graphs, and how he has put together from the cosmic computer statistics on mankind, on every government of every nation, on the flow of supply, and on the demand for that supply. And we have reviewed this night the build-up of arms, the war plans, the preparations of atomic weapons, the defenses of the major powers, and we have reviewed demographic problems, problems of culture, of society in North and South America, problems in Europe which concern prophecies of cataclysm and the burden of karma. We must analyze Terra from the level of the etheric blueprint locked in the white fire core of the souls of mankind, and from the collective subconscious and the individual subconscious, records which will also come to the fore by the cycles of cosmic law which are unalterable, patterns and energies and force fields which will be dealt with. And we have studied the astrology of this year, the remainder of the 70s, the 80s, and unto the year 2001. We have looked at the influences of the karma of other planets and the life waves of other systems of worlds. We have studied the weight of karma and how it interacts between planetary bodies and between neighbors. And after all of this study and analysis, we have yet to draw conclusions that will affect our petitions made before the lords of karma. And why do we wait until this late hour to formulate conclusions? Because we are in the hope that even in the 11th hour of the turning of the cycles of the year, mankind will respond and rally. And we have yet to see what Keepers of the Flame will deliver as a mandate through the invocations to the violet flame and specific calls for specific actions. And so we wait the tallying of energies as you await the tallying of the votes for a political candidate. We wait to see whether light or darkness will ride in the elections of the free will of mankind. We wait to see if there will be sufficient invocations given for the exposure of the deadly threats to society, to America, and to this government. We wait to see whether the faithful will remain faithful during the hours of testing which always increase from the moment of winter solstice to the conclusion of the calendar year. And so I come to release to you love, a greater love than you have known before, an increment of my own diamond, my own dedication to the love of God as His will. You have touched the hem of the garment of the will of God. I desire to see you wear the garment, if you will. But do not be concerned, for no one will impose it upon you. You will have to claim it, and more than that, you will have to call for it, and you will have to call fervently. And then the angels of the diamond heart, and devas of the diamond heart, and brothers and sisters of the diamond heart will come and place that mantle of sapphire blue. And when you have the attainment in your heart of the will of God, sufficient to withstand the dark ones of the night who project their projectiles through your consciousness, you will find that Mother Mary herself will give to you a diamond clasp for the robe of the will of God. We come to gather the faithful. We come to initiate those who keep their word. Let the word of God be sealed in your hearts. And let your heart flame expand to ignite the fires of the all-seeing eye, that you might concern yourselves with a little more than your own private concerns of your household and your neighborhood and your community, if you can look that far. I desire that you should come to Darjeeling this night and be exposed to the problems that face the Council of the Great White Brotherhood dedicated to God government on Terra. I desire that you should come out of your cocoon of selfishness and self-concern and see what it means to be responsible for the government of the life waves of a planetary evolution. Understand what it means to be concerned with a light expanding in the heart of every living soul, and every soul trying to be born on Terra. Understand what it means to come early in the morning to receive the report of the angels of the diamond heart as to the increase and the decrease of the focusing of the Christ consciousness of the diamond of the will of God in the hearts of mankind. And there is a daily tallying of that energy anchored in the heart. And we watch as the energies of Terra rise and fall according to the accumulations of karma, according to the patterns of the moon and the signs of astrology which influence mankind, for and against the light. We would that at least, if mankind are going to fluctuate, that they will fluctuate according to their own free will, according to their own God determination, or at least their human determination. But sadly, they do not. And the rise and fall of light on Terra is because mankind have made themselves passive, subject to the passing of astral forces, of the mass consciousness, of that which is released over the media, even when they are not tuned into the media consciously. And so as we observe a world moving through time and space, revolving around the sun, we see a world controlled predominantly by a mass consciousness with very few individuals who have independent thoughts and feelings, and who can keep their thoughts and feelings independent from the mass consciousness, and who can thereby be trusted with an extraordinary responsibility and service. We look to devotees in East and West. We look to those who are the self-disciplined and therefore thrice blessed. We look to those who are willing to carry light not only by word but by deed. We look to those who have a record of attainment, who have proven themselves able to withstand those fiery darts of the wicked, those blasts of the wind of the night. We look for those who have called for dispensations in previous years, and we look for those who have taken those dispensations and multiply the light of God upon earth. Yes, when we review the tallying of heart chakras and of light on Terra, it is almost unnecessary to read that so-called ticker tape, for do you know We can discern simply by past record what will be the daily manifestation according to our own cosmic astrology, of which you have glimpsed a portion. For we know that mankind have proven themselves unworthy to sustain the Buddhic light or the Christ light daily and hourly. But they come and they go, and they dance and play as children. And they are happy and they frolic in the light of the cosmic Christ, Lord Maitreya. And then they go their ways and their indulgent ways, taking that light and spending it upon their own whims and fancies. It is a wonder in itself that mankind receive dispensations, and yet is it any wonder that we are reluctant to give and give again to those disciples who bask in the flame and yet are not willing to defend that flame when they are away from the aura of the Master? We train, we summon, we challenge, we warn, we teach, we write. We deliver the message, and we move toward the sun of being. We are concerned with intensifying the quality of light bearers. We are concerned with increasing the nucleus of light as teaching centers spring up in the major cities of the world. And the Indian Council of the Great White Brotherhood summons this messenger to project the plan of the decades of this century and to project the blueprint for the teaching center in India. So let it come to pass, for there must be the restoration of the original teaching of the Mother, brought forth upon that continent 5,000 years ago and beyond, 10,000 and 20,000 in the days of Lemuria, for the worship of the Mother that came to India, came from Mu, and so it must be restored on every continent. And we desire the practicality of the West and the initiations of the Christ to be given to our people, even as the initiations of the Buddha are given in the West. I say, expand your horizons, build well where you are, and build securely. For when the white cubes are in place, and you transfer these to other lands and other peoples, you will see how Terra will be ignited as it were as a Christmas tree. And you will see the light traveling and the spark leaping from center to center, and you will see that the open door which no man can shut is the open door on Terra of the Father's many mansions, of the many ashrams on the etheric plane, opening in this final dispensation of this 2,000-year cycle, opening for the devotees, opening for the chelas. We say, open the way for those who have made themselves worthy to receive. Open the way, open the way. We call for the setting of the pattern of the new year. We call for the setting of the pattern on which successive patterns of successive years may be built. When you look to yourself and to your soul and you ask, what is my blueprint for this coming year? Do not neglect the patterns of the past. 500,000, 700,000, 900,000 years of incarnations. And your patterns are as clay tablets. Thank God they are clay. Thank God they can be broken. But who has the authority to break the clay tablets of the records of infamy and darkness and the fall of the soul into the density of the physical plane? Who has the authority? Why, your own Christ self. And so you see, in setting the pattern for the new year, you are almost totally governed by all of the discs of the tablets of clay that are set upon one another, one by one, almost as a pile that reaches unto the skies. And yet you see, they are condensed not in this plane, and all contained within the electronic belt of your own force field. Records of your musings, your walkings through the earth, your entering into civilizations, primitive and advanced, your experiences, your encounters, and every disc is an incarnation carefully calculated on spirals that wind about the cosmic clock. They are accurate. They are engrams recorded in living clay, living stone, living energy, in Akasha itself. In this very moment, I am capable of reading simultaneously all of these clay discs, of all of the life waves of Terra, and of reading simultaneously all of these tablets for each individual life stream of hundreds of thousands of years. And do you know what I say as the result of gazing upon these records? I repeat with the preacher, all is vanity. All is vanity. And I ask, when will you come to that conclusion? That is my question. For I know that when the would-be Chela comes to the conclusion that human existence is the vanity of vanities, then and only then will that Chela be the Chela worthy of Moria, of Saint Germain. When there is no longer an attraction for the things of this world and the success of this world, when there is no longer any desire for fulfillment in any of the facets of this world, then we look at the Chela on whom we can count for action, for responsibility, for trustworthiness. But if that would be lukewarmed one still desires to assert the ego and the arguments of the ego and the get-even tactics of the ego, when we see that, we bow and we retire. We retire to other spheres where we have Chelas worthy of the name. I come with joy in my heart, joy over one Chela on the path on Terra, and we have more than one. We have hundreds, even thousands, but not more. For all who call themselves Chelas are not counted as Chelas in our retreats. I bring to you then the virtue that is most important to the ascended masters, the virtue of trustworthiness, responsibility, constancy. The Chela we can find today, next month, next year, 5 years hence, invoking the same fires, sustaining the same faith and charity and hope, inculcating the vision to others, who will hear our footsteps on the threshold, who will sense our vibration when we raise our eyes from our retreat and look across Terra to that Chela, who will sense the action of our need, who will waken in the night and sense that all is not well on Terra, who will rise from his bed and kneel before the Virgin and ask for intercession on behalf of souls in torment. Yes, this is the Chela. the Chela on whom we can count. This is the Chela that is the prize of the ascended masters. We are glad that you find light in our presence, in our dictations. We are glad that you see more of the reality of God as you come to this conclave of light. We are glad for all good tidings which bring to you the joy of peace. But we will be more glad when we see you sustain this day by day, day by day. So then let the fervor of the first contact with the ascended masters wax into the flame of constancy that will ignite a planet for the victory. By trustworthiness we will forge a new day. And therefore let us take the handful. Let us take those who will come. And now let us go, for I would take you in your etheric bodies. Let your soul rise then into the etheric plane of fire, entering the heart, enveloped in the sphere of light. Come then with me as I take you to my retreat, my home of light. We are here. Let us enter. Received by angels, dedicated to the light of India. We leave our shoes at the door, and we come into the library where there is a fire burning. I bid you welcome and be seated. The paneling in the library is of the native wood of India, a very special type of wood. I bring you here that you might study with me the plight of the people of India, an ancient race descending continuously from Mu, and yet a mixture of races, of subsequent comings and goings of life waves. A race of people whose fiery destiny has been, in many instances, forgotten. You can imagine the opposition to attainment of the mind of God. And this is the calling of Hindus and Buddhists and even Muslims who are a part of this vast subcontinent which you see before you on the map. I keep here this map of India for meditation and for purposes of studying the movements, the vibrations, the karmic weights of our people. And this map does record the ebb and the flow, the influx of light and of darkness, and the threats to the people at all levels. Here we see the ravages of disease, and we see, underneath it all, the plots of the fallen ones to take the light of India and to use it to the glory of systems, political and economic, foreign to the people of India. I would then that you would understand that the attainment of the mind of God and the focusing of that mind can come only when the other chakras, from the base of the spine to the crown, are mastered, and therefore to one of the oldest of all civilizations and peoples, and the one having had the greatest attainment of light, is given the responsibility of raising the light of the mother unto the crown of the Buddhic fulfillment. Now then see how they have been caught and distracted, and how all manner of false teaching has also invaded the temples and the mosques. And see the divisive elements as I show you the infiltration of demons and fallen ones who pit their darkness against the light of the Mother. Is it any wonder that Kali wields her sword in our land? For she is the defender of souls against these demons and fallen ones who have run rampant across this nation for many centuries, for the art of intensifying light among the common people is one that has been losing ground. And then, with the coming of the West, with the exportation of the science of the Mother to India, there has also been the exportation of materialism, not because it is from without, but because within the seeds of greed were already there, and these seeds magnetized from the without the untransmuted energies within, as is always the case, beloved ones, individually and collectively among mankind. Now I would desire that you should feel the burden of the people. And so I allow to rest upon you now the weight of the collective karma of the people of India. Walking in this land as the pilgrims with the messengers did in 1970, they also contacted this vibration, the weight of darkness, alongside the great burden of light that is the gift of the people, presents a manifestation that can only be understood either out of your body in the temples of light, simulated by the masters, or in physical, tangible manifestation upon the land itself. And so now you begin to feel upon your bodies a new kind of weight, a new kind of consciousness. And you say to yourself, with all our complaining, we would rather have our own karma, and our own karma in America. And this is always true, blessed ones, for you are accustomed to your own karma, and your own karma relates to your own soul identity. Sensing this weight of India, however, feel then how the ignorance of the masses, how their separation from light and learning and teaching keeps them without the ability to intone the sacred mantras of the word that would be their liberation. And see how their diets cause them to become passive, not with the strength of a Gandhi, but passive to the point of nihilism. See then how the infiltrators have invaded the government in New Delhi. See how the perversions of the Mother and schism and factions and jealousy and warring has turned this state into a camp of socialism vying for communism, and sadly neglecting the creativity of the individual, and failing to train the young in creativity, but programming them as they are in the West, programming them to their own mental bodies, dominated not by the Christ or the Buddha, but by the carnal mind. And so the cult of success has replaced the cult of the Mother, and Kali swings her sword this night. She swings her sword in anticipation of the new year and the new dispensations of light from Shambhala. She clears the way, but she must have cooperation here among the living, among those in Mater who sense the plight and are willing to enter that fight. Precious hearts, we know that you have scarcely enough light bearers to go around these United States. We know that there must be more and more devotees who are willing to decree and who will not be dismayed by those who declare decrees to be ineffective or non-essential, or who accuse, can you imagine, the masters or their teachers or someone somewhere of employing the tactic of fear or superstition or calamity or whatever to induce the students to continue their decrees. I tell you, there are enough crises in the world that the messengers do not need to manufacture crisis in order to keep adherents in the fold of the ascended masters. And each individual has sufficient karma that were there no crisis on Terra, it would keep him busy for this lifetime in decrees. Precious ones, these devotees who are stable in the sacred fire must be multiplied and increased, and it will come to pass, for we have decreed it. And this is our decree here in the council chambers of the Indian Council of the Great White Brotherhood. We have decreed an increase of the numbers of souls who will take this way of Saint Germain and make it their own, and having made it their own, will be willing to export it to every land. Think then of a continent blessed with the ancient Sanskrit, with the English language, both key in the delivery of the word of the Logos to mankind. Think of a people and masses of people who require your ministry and your love and your Christ presence, your individual attention. Think of the tutoring and the teaching and the laboring with these souls. Think, O precious hearts. Think a bit beyond yourselves and your concerns. Think of the millions who await the coming of your light, who are in bondage, in squalor, in filth, in poverty, who live and die in the streets. Think of these, and think of the exploiters. Think of the division, and see the selfishness of those whose lust is for power and for money. See how they calculate in the markets their trade and their commerce and their exchange with other nations. See how they can become so accustomed to the poor as to have that hardness of heart that no longer sees the plight of the deprived, that no longer is concerned that they be educated, that the masses rise. It is a fertile field for the fallen ones, and I tell you, they come in every guise and disguise. We look for devotees out of the West to infuse India with a practical, spiritual religion. We look for the Mother to translate the teachings of Hinduism and Buddhism and to extricate these teachings from the overlay of the fallen ones that has allowed the people to become passive and to procrastinate the balancing of their karma to the next life and the next and the next. And this procrastination is the weakness of will that comes from weakness of body, that comes from imbalance then in diet and in living. Look again now and see the devotees of India who know the law and know the Lord of the world. Look at these who are strong, who bathe in the Ganges, who give their mantras, who are truly lights for all of the land. Look at these whose very light sustains the purity and the mother flow of the Ganges. Look at the masters of the Himalayas, of whom you will never hear in your outer world. Look at them from my retreat as I show you these great ones in their caves, who sustain the light of Asia, of India, of China, who hold the balance in the Himalayas. Yes, they are there, and they will never be seen by embodied mankind. They are hidden, and yet they are in physical embodiment, and they are in conscious contact with your messenger, holding the force field of light in east and west. Now then, in preparation for the coming of a teaching center of the Ascended Masters in India, I ask you to make the calls for the clearing of the way. And I know you have been asked by many masters and the councils of the Brotherhood, who plead with you to make invocations for the greatest problems, the crises, those elements of life on earth which cannot wait. And yet, I ask in any case, I ask you to make calls, knowing full well that some of you will hear my word and will be able in the coming months to fulfill those calls, while others respond to the requests of Saint Germain for Taiwan, for America. And so it goes. We too have areas of vested interest. Our vested interest comes from our own karma and the karma of evolutions whom we have left behind when we have taken the initiation of our ascension. And yet our concern is always for all mankind and for the life waves of this solar system, as these life waves relate to other solar systems and galaxies with galaxies, for we do not lose sight of the grand view of creation. And yet, in this grand view of co-measurement which is ours, we always come back to the individual chila, the individual heart. We come back to day by day, step by step attainment. Steady attainment, even if it be slow, is better than the firecracker that explodes and is no more. We have seen many explosions on the path, and we look again, and they are gone. But the steady plodders, moving step by step at a healthy pace, setting that pace according to ability, the steady plodders are always the ones who win in this race, who are the favorites of the Ascended Masters. And so make your calls for the transmutation of the 4 types of animal magnetism that assail the 4 aspects of God-free being in India. Call for the removal of that perversion of the consciousness of the mother that you have called, and rightly so, the cow consciousness. For in many cases the cow has replaced the mother, not only in form, not only as the animal, but also in the vibration of the people, who are more concerned with mooing and cooing at one another than they are with the release of light that will be the freedom of their souls. And this entertainment that is given to the masses of India is just so much sympathy and so much vanity, as they are taught to imitate those whom they see in the movies, in the games, in the dances. And here again, all is vanity. We are not so concerned with limiting our population as we are with strengthening our population. We see the light of Christed ones. We see their light and the containment of that light by circumstances, by situations that seem beyond the control of the government, because selfishness has stagnated the flow of light. And of course, in India, it is not considered that the politicians have the light. And those who are the teachers and the chelas of the light withdraw from government and commerce, and therefore those with the greed and the materialistic attitudes are those who dominate our economy and our politics. And so here in India, as in America, it is the counsel of our devotees, our ascended masters who come to this home of light. It is our counsel that chelas of the masters prepare themselves in training, in education, to be practical in fields of service, that they might anchor the light down from the heights of the Himalayas into the large cities, that anchoring the light might go from the etheric plane to the mental plane, to the emotional body, to the physical earth, and saturate all of life with the victory of Lord Gautama. Precious ones, I have shared with you some of the burdens of the Ascended Masters meeting 24 hours a day for the salvation of souls on Terra. I have shared with you a bit of our perspective, and I have called to you to set the pattern for the new year. I have said that that pattern is governed by past patterns, and that you are limited as to how much you can launch out and be free from the old patterns, and that which relieves you of certain limitations is the sacred fire of the violet flame which Saint Germain has brought. And so, by an intense action of the violet flame invoked between now and the turning of the year, you will find that you, in the Christ flame, that your Christ flame and Christ's self in you may still shatter a clay tablet or two, a disc of record in your electronic belt, and thereby enable you to transcend a former state and create a blueprint for the new year that will give you greater freedom, greater love, greater knowledge, and greater opportunity for initiation. Do not take lightly the sands that fall in the hourglass as they are running out in this year, for every grain is yet an opportunity to invoke the flame, to overcome, and to thereby set a pattern that perhaps is 1/100th of an inch higher than what it would have been had you not elected to invoke that flame. And that 100th of an inch may spare you the burden of considerable karma in the year to come, and then you will see in each successive year, as you set the pattern again with your Christ self and with the lords of karma, that by successive victories and applications and daily winnings in the game of life, that year by year you will have a greater and greater circumference that is called the habitation of your soul, a greater area of movement and influence, a greater contact with souls of light. All is weighed in the great balance of the Ascended Masters, and therefore I commend you into the keeping of the sacred fire. And so my sharing has been for your individual attunement, for your concern for planetary conditions and your awareness of these conditions. My coming has been to extend the love of our retreat and to invite you to come to our retreat when we hold those special sessions that are for Chelas who are concerned with God government on Terra, and specifically concerned for the relationship of India and America. There has been such a deterioration of the flow of light between these nations through the media that the feelings of hostility on both sides of the earth lead to a coolness and a lack of concern. So let the Chelas of Moria reestablish the ties, and let them be ties of light. Let your light flow into India, and let India be preserved, for her contribution to the golden age is indispensable. So let her children be protected, her mothers be nourished, and her fathers be upheld in the discipline of the law. I am Chananda of the Indian Council of the Great White Brotherhood, and I bid you good evening.